Nobody's Tuesday by Jessica Rogers. I looked around my apartment at the piles of dilapidated boxes. I had moved in almost 2 months ago, but I simply didn't have the motivation to get my life in order. After walking away from a relationship that I thought was forever, I was single and starting over. Adulting was overwhelming, so for now, I was going to calm my anxieties with some Cheerios and the cast of 90 Day Fiancé, possibly the only people whose lives seemed like more of a dumpster fire than my own. I grabbed a bowl, dumped in some cereal and milk, and pulled open the silverware drawer. I quickly realized my mistake. I had exactly one knife, one fork, and a shit ton of takeout chopsticks. Not a spoon in sight. Tears welled in my eyes. What kind of depressing loser doesn't even own a spoon to eat her sad, lonely cereal with? My lack of appropriate cutlery felt like an Alanis Morissette-inspired metaphor for my life. Only it wasn't ironic. It was just fucking sad. I chucked the cereal, bowl and all, in the trash. And then, like any emotionally competent millennial, I sought solace in my phone. I felt like shit about myself. Why not seek validation from someone else? I've always been a little bit of an attention whore. And it really explains a lot about my career as a high school teacher. A captive audience of people whose success relies on paying attention to every word that comes out of my mouth. I am here for it. The world of dating apps opened up a whole new audience. Sure, the entire field is a bit of a cesspool with unsolicited dick pics lurking around every corner, but it's also a great distraction. So I dried my self-loathing tears and swiped my way through Bumble until my hand went numb and dropped my phone on my face. In the morning, I was bombarded by the consequences of my late-night swipe fest. Apparently, when you feel pretty shitty about yourself and your lack of adult spoons, you're perfectly happy to match with every douche McTool on the internet. After sifting through the PB Bros, the East County Trumpers, the fuckboys, and the unemployed jujitsu enthusiasts, I decided to message a remaining match. Derek was nothing that I ever wanted in a partner. He was a teacher, strike one, we're fucking crazy people. He was a coach, strike two, that's a teacher on steroids with more yelling. Bumble said he was only 2 miles away, strike three, don't shit where you eat, girl. And he had kids, strike four, I have got 175 kids at school, I'm good. But he was hot. What did I have to lose? My dignity? I'd tossed that out with my cereal the night before. Derek and I agreed to meet up for a beer, and despite everything I wanted to dislike about him, I had a really good time. Our conversation flowed, and we laughed a lot. Our next several dates were similar, and I enjoyed getting to know someone new. And the more I learned about Derek, though, the more questions I had. But I wasn't looking to get into a serious relationship again. So when little red flags waved in my direction, I simply waved back. Also, the fact that he made my lady parts melt didn't hurt. About a month into our situationship, Derek posed a question. Do you think you have a capacity for the amount of love you can give? Like, am I gonna run out of love someday? Not exactly on a quest to find my Prince Charming. I hated the idea of ending up alone, but I was also pretty sure I was dead inside. No, I mean, do you think you are limited in how many people you're capable of loving? I wasn't sure, where this conversation was going, but I was fairly certain I didn't want to be on board when his train of thought reached its final destination. I don't believe in, like, soulmates, but I get that there's lots of different kinds of love, like the way I love my grandma is different from how I love my dog. I love baking. I love glitter, I rambled. Hun, I don't think you're hearing me. I love you. He put his hand on my shoulder, giving me a condescending squeeze. I didn't respond. I love you, and I love other women. I'm at a place in my life where I'm not putting a cap on who I can love. Oh. Okay. My tongue felt like it had glued itself to the roof of my mouth. This was supposed to be a casual relationship. Where had the L word come from? I gave a nod that apparently satisfied him enough to change the subject, and we moved on to an incredibly competitive round of Mario Kart. The L word didn't come up again. About a month later, I was cleaning up following a baking frenzy while Derek sat on a bar stool at my kitchen counter. Do you ever bake gluten-free stuff? He asked casually. Now, I knew he wasn't gluten-free because he'd inhaled every cookie, cupcake, and slice of sourdough I'd offered him. I thought maybe you could make me some stuff without gluten, you know, for Stephanie, my other girlfriend. What? First of all, I was not his girlfriend. Second of all, who the fuck is Stephanie? The woman I'm living with. She's gluten-free. She's also my girlfriend. This was all news to me. Now, to be clear, I didn't actually care that he was seeing someone else, but he was acting like this was common knowledge between us, and it most certainly was not. We talked about this the other night when we played Mario Kart. He put his condescending paw on my shoulder again. He said that he had met Stephanie a few weeks ago and had moved in with her and her mother shortly after. I didn't know why he was telling me all this. I'd made it clear that I had no interest in an exclusive relationship and that our situation was fine with me. I want you to meet Stephanie. I want you guys to be friends, and that you two can work out a schedule. Maybe I can stay with you on Tuesdays and her on another night. Have set date nights. Then we can pick a night for all three of us. Was he seriously proposing some sort of timeshare-style boyfriend custody agreement? No, thank you. I have enough friends. This was a lie. Most of my friends are married, have kids, and have little time left for activities that don't involve wiping butts or noses. Still, this was not the kind of friendship I wanted. I didn't want to be anybody's designated Tuesday. It would mean a lot to me. I want you to meet the other people in my life. I want you to know and love my tribe. It sounds like you want me to bake gluten-free treats for your potential sister wives and streamline your social engagements. I fired back. I didn't want a serious relationship with this man, and I was clearly getting roped into much, much more than I had signed up for. I couldn't cobble together enough spoons for one person, let alone three. I don't know why you're angry. This is about love. Was it, though? Or was it about having a consistent source of sex and sourdough on speed dial? I'm not angry, but I am also not interested. I think you should just go. I walked to the door and held it open for him. Confused, he fumbled to gather his belongings as he stuffed them into his merce. okay, but I'm gonna keep the reservation I made for your birthday, in case you change your mind. It's for 7 o'clock on Tuesday for a party of 3. Derek had never sent me a dick pic, but suddenly he felt slimier than any of the lewd messages that had ever slid into my DMs. Was this man seriously trying to indoctrinate me into his harem? I shut the door in his face without saying another word, and I waited for the familiar sense of loneliness to wash over me. Next would come the overwhelming urge to grab my phone, text Derek, apologize, and tell him to come back. But instead, I felt strong. I felt like a fucking badass. I had stood up to a man who was clearly trying to manipulate me and told him to get the fuck out. I had chosen to be alone, and it felt good. Now, I don't think we have a limit on the number of people we can love. I know that the love I have for my grandma is different than the love I have for my dog. I know that despite being 37 years old, I am never going to stop loving glitter. I know that I am not defined by my collection of spoons, or lack thereof. And I definitely know I am nobody's Tuesday, and I am not joining a harem, especially not a gluten-free one.
Kate Rose just took down the house with Nobody's Tuesday. How did that feel on stage?
Oh, it was great. It was a wonderful audience tonight. They were responsive. We had a lot of fun. It was nice to kind of play with them. It's a piece that really wants people to interact with it. So doing it finally for an audience that was laughing was a lot of fun.
Any thoughts for Jessica for the piece that she wrote and what it felt like to have her in the audience here listening to it tonight?
I thought Jessica wrote a really funny piece that also read really well. I think sometimes it's really hard to kind of translate memoir into this performance piece. And what worked so well about Jessica's piece and what I loved about it is that it read, for the most part, like a monologue. So it was really easy to be able to play with an audience with it, and it felt very natural. I think Jessica and I probably have pretty similar speech patterns. So it was very easy to memorize. It felt very natural to do because it just lived in my body. We have a shared love of profanity and sarcasm, and that just makes my life so much easier.